Hello, dear one. It's that time. Pinocchio. Pinocchio. And it's the last chapter. Chapter 36. Oops. I'm in the wrong spot. Last time they were escaping from the shark with asthma. How is it that a shark has asthma if it doesn't have lungs? Learn about that in science class. Chapter 36. Pinocchio finally ceases to be a marionette and becomes a boy. And if you look carefully at the picture, he's carrying like some buckets. I wonder what's going on with that. They were swimming away from the shark at last, or at least Pinocchio was swimming. He was carrying his father on his back. "My dear father, we are saved," cried the marionette. "All we have to do now is get to the shore, and that is easy." He swam swiftly away in an effort to reach land as soon as possible. All at once he noticed that Geppetto was shivering and shaking as if with a high fever. Pinocchio, thinking his father was frightened, tried to comfort him by saying, "Courage, father. In a few moments we shall be safe on land." "But where is that blessed shore?" asked the little old man, more and more worried as he tried to pierce the faraway shadows. "Here I am searching on all sides, and I see nothing but sea and sky." "I see the shore," said the marionette. "Remember, father, that I am like a cat. I see better at night than by day." Poor Pinocchio was beginning to feel discouraged. His strength was leaving him, and his breathing was becoming more labored. He felt he could not go on much longer, and the shore was still far away. He swam a few more strokes, then he turned and cried out weakly, "Help me, father, help, for I am dying." Father and son were really about to drown when they heard a voice like a guitar out of tune, call from the sea, "What's the trouble?" Or something like that. "It is I, my poor father." "I know the voice. You are Pinocchio, and I am the Toonie, your companion in the shark's stomach." "When how did you escape?" "I imitated your example. You showed me the way, and I followed." "Toonie, you arrived at the right moment. Help us, or we are lost." "With great pleasure indeed. Hang on to my tail, both of you, and let me lead you. In a twinkling you will be safe on land." "Are we too heavy?" asked Pinocchio. "Heavy? Not in the least. You are as light as seashells," answered the Toonie. As soon as they reached the shore, Pinocchio was the first to jump to the ground and help his old father. Then he turned to the fish and said to him, "Dear friend, you have saved my father." See, not himself. He cares about his father. "And I have not enough words with to thank you. Allow me to embrace you as a sign of my eternal gratitude." The Toonie stuck his nose out of the water, and Pinocchio knelt on the sand and kissed him most affectionately on his cheek. At this warm greeting, the poor Toonie wept like a child. He turned quickly, plunged into the sea, and disappeared. Pinocchio offered his arm to Geppetto, who was so weak he could hardly stand, and said to him, "Lean on my arm, dear father, and let us go. We will walk very, very slowly, and look for a house or a hut, where they will be kind enough to give us a bite of bread and a bit of straw to sleep on." They had not taken 100 steps when they saw two rough-looking individuals sitting on a stone begging for alms. That means a handout. Give me something, please. A handout. Let me turn the page. You might be surprised at who these two characters are. There's the full page. Can you see who the two characters are asking for a handout? It was the fox and the cat, but one could hardly recognize them. They looked so miserable. The cat, after pretending to be blind for so many years, had really lost the sight of both eyes. And the fox, old, thin, and almost hairless, has lost his tail. "Oh, Pinocchio," he cried in a tearful voice, "give us some alms, we beg of you." What do you think Pinocchio is going to say to them? "Adios, false friends," answered the marionette. "You cheated me once, but you will never catch me again." Yes. Actually, they cheated him twice, right? Because remember, they are the assassins. Pinocchio, I don't think, has ever figured that out. "Believe us, today we are truly poor and starving." "Starving," repeated the cat. "If you are poor, you deserve it. Remember the old proverb which says, 'Stolen money never bears fruit.' Adios, false friends." So here's Pinocchio and Geppetto having to deal with these false friends. "Have mercy on us!" On us. "Adios, false friends." That's the third time he's called them false friends. Remember the old proverb which says, "Bad wheat always makes poor bread." "Do not abandon us." "Abandon us," said the cat. Let's get the cat in view here. "Adios, false friends." Remember the old proverb, "Whoever steals his neighbor's shirt usually dies without his own." Like, I've never heard that, but I could see where that would be true. Waving goodbye, Pinocchio and Geppetto went on their way. After a few more steps, they saw a tiny cottage built of straw. They went in and knocked on the door. Oh, they went and knocked on the door. Sorry, they didn't go in. "Who is it?" said a little voice from within. "A poor father and a poorer son without food and with no roof to cover them?" "Turn the key and the door will open," said the same little voice. Pinocchio turned the key and the door opened. They went in but saw no one. "Here I am, up here." Father and son looked up, and there on a beam sat the talking cricket. "Oh, my dear cricket," said Pinocchio, bowing politely. "Oh, now you call me your dear cricket, but do you remember when you threw your hammer at me to kill me?" What does Pinocchio say? "You are right, dear cricket. Throw a hammer at me now, I deserve it, but spare my poor old father." Oh, there goes the clock. I'll turn the page because there's a picture on this page you should see. If you can count, it's 5 o'clock where I am. What time is it where you are? That's right. Time to finish the story. "I'm going to spare both the father and the son. I wanted to remind you of the trick you played on me, to teach you that we must be kind and courteous to others if we want to find kindness and courtesy in our own days of trouble. You are right, little cricket, and I shall remember the lesson you have taught me. But tell how you succeeded in buying this pretty little cottage." "This cottage was given to me yesterday by a little goat with blue hair." "And where did the goat go?" asked Pinocchio. "And when will she come back?" "She will never come back. Yesterday she went away bleeding sadly, and it seemed to me that she said, 'Poor Pinocchio, I shall never see him again. The shark must have eaten him by this time.'" "It was she?" "It was." "My dear little fairy," cried Pinocchio, sobbing. After he had cried a long time, he wiped his eyes and then made a bed of straw for old Geppetto. "Tell me, little cricket, where shall I find a glass of milk for my poor father?" 3 fields away from here lives Farmer John. He has some cows. Go there and he will give you what you want. It's raining outside my window. I don't know if my microphone is good enough, but can you hear the rain? Pinocchio ran all the way to Farmer John's house. The farmer said to him, "How much milk do you want?" And that's on the screen. "I want a full glass." "A full glass costs a penny." "First give me the penny." "I have no penny," answered Pinocchio, sad and ashamed. "Very bad," answered the farmer. "If you have no penny, I have no milk." "Too bad," said Pinocchio, and started to go. "Wait a moment," said Farmer John. "Perhaps we can come to terms. Do you know how to draw water from a well? Then go to that well yonder and draw 100 bucketfuls of water." "Very well. After you have finished, I shall give you a glass of warm, sweet milk." Farmer John showed him how to draw water. Pinocchio set to work as well as he knew how, but long before he had pulled up the 100 buckets, he was tired out. He had never worked so hard in his life. "Until today," said the farmer, "my donkey has drawn the water for me, but now that poor animal is dying." "Will you take me to see him?" said Pinocchio. "Gladly." As soon as Pinocchio went into the stable, he spied a little donkey laying on a bed of straw. He was worn out from hunger and too much work. After looking at him a long time, he said to himself, "I know that donkey. I have seen him before." And bending low over him, he asked, "Who are you?" At this question, the donkey opened weary, dying eyes and answered in the same tongue, "I am Lampwick." Then he closed his eyes and died. "Oh, my poor Lampwick," said Pinocchio in a faint voice as he wiped his eyes with some straw he had picked up from the ground. "Do you feel so sorry for a little donkey that has cost you nothing?" said the farmer. "What should I do, I who have paid my good money for him?" "But, you see, he was my friend, a classmate of mine." "What?" shouted Farmer John, bursting out laughing. "What? You had donkeys in your school? How you must have studied." He doesn't understand. The marionette, ashamed and hurt by these words, did not answer, but taking his glass of milk, returned to his father. From that day on, for 5 months, Pinocchio got up every morning as dawn was breaking and went to the farm to draw water. Oh, that was what he was doing, carrying the buckets at the picture at the beginning of the story. And every day he was given a glass of warm milk for his poor old father, who grew stronger and better day by day. But he was not satisfied. He learned to make baskets of reeds and sold them. With the money he received, he and his father were able to keep from starving. Among other things, he built a rolling chair, strong and comfortable, to take his old father out for an airing on bright sunny days. I guess now we'd call that a wheelchair. In the evening, the marionette studied by lamplight. With some of the money he earned, he bought himself a second-hand volume that had a few pages missing, and with that he learned to read in a very short time. Can you read? As far as writing was concerned, he used a long stick at one end, of which he had whittled a long, fine point. Ink he had none, so he used the juice of blackberries or cherries. Little by little his diligence was rewarded. He succeeded, not only in his studies, but also in his work, and a day came when he put enough money together to keep his old father comfortable and happy. Besides this, he was able to save the great amount of 50 pennies. With it, he wanted to buy himself a new suit. Let's turn the page. Here again is another full-page picture of Pinocchio. This time, something's going on with a snail. One day, he said to his father, "I am going to the market to buy myself a coat, a cap, and a pair of shoes. When I come back, I'll be so dressed up you will think I am a rich man." He ran out of the house and up the road to the village, laughing and singing. closer on Pinocchio there. Suddenly he heard his name called, and looking around to see whence the voice came, he noticed a large snail crawling out of some bushes. There we go. Don't you recognize me? Said the snail. Do you remember the snail that lived with the fairy with the azure hair? Do you not remember how she opened the door for you one night and gave you something to eat? I remember everything, cried Pinocchio. Answer me quickly, pretty snail. Where have you left my fairy? Has she forgiven me? Does she remember me? Does she still love me? Is she very far away? May I see her? At all these questions, tumbling one out after another, the snail answered, calm as ever, My dear Pinocchio, the fairy is lying ill in a hospital. She has been stricken with trouble and illness, and she hasn't a penny left with which to buy a bite of bread. Oh, how sorry I am! My poor dear little fairy! If I had 1,000,000, I should run to her with it. But I only have 50 pennies. Here they are. I was just going to buy some clothes. Here, take them, little snail, and give them to my good fairy. I should like to sell these rags I have on to help her more. Go and hurry. Come back here within a couple of days, and I hope to have more money for you. Until today, I have worked for my father. Now I shall have to work for my mother also. Goodbye, and I hope to see you soon. So there's Pinocchio giving his pennies that he was going to spend on himself to help his dear old mother. The Blue Fairy. The snail, much against her usual habit, began to run like a lizard under a summer sun. When Pinocchio returned home, his father asked him, And where is the new suit? I couldn't find one to fit me. I shall have to look again some other day. Oh, that's great. Do you remember Geppetto at the beginning of the book making light of selling his coat to buy Pinocchio a book, which was a great act of generosity? And he kind of, I don't know what you want to say. He didn't speak directly to it. He didn't brag about it. He kind of like, oh, it was too warm. Remember that? And Pinocchio understood that he had sold his coat to buy himself. Like, I wonder if Geppetto understands. Oh, Pinocchio's given the money away to help someone else that he would have spent on himself. See, the father is becoming, no, the son? The son is becoming like the father. That night, Pinocchio, instead of going to bed at 10 o'clock, waited until midnight, and instead of making 8 baskets, he made 16. After that, he went to bed and fell asleep. As he slept, he dreamed of his fairy, beautiful, smiling, and happy, who kissed him and said to him, Bravo, Pinocchio! In reward for your kind heart, I forgive you for all your old mischief. You can't see it, but I am on the last page. Boys who love and take good care of their parents when they are old and sick deserve praise, even though they may not be held up as models of obedience and good behavior. Keep on doing so well, and you will be happy. At that very moment, Pinocchio awoke and opened wide his eyes. Let's see what the next page is. There's that paragraph I just read to you. What was his surprise and his joy when, on looking himself over, he saw that he was no longer a marionette, but that he had become a real, live boy. He looked all about him, and instead of the usual walls of straw, he found himself in a beautifully furnished little room, the prettiest he had ever seen. In a twinkling, he jumped down from his bed to look at the chair standing there. There he found a new suit, a new hat, and a pair of shoes. As soon as he was dressed, he put his hands in his pockets and pulled out a little leather purse on which were written the following words. Here we go. The fairy with azure hair returns 50 pennies to her dear Pinocchio with many thanks for his kind heart. The marionette opened the purse, and behold, there were 50 gold coins, not pennies. Pinocchio ran to the mirror. He hardly recognized himself. The bright face of a tall boy looked at him with wide awake blue eyes, dark brown hair, and happy smiling lips. Surrounded by so much splendor, the marionette hardly knew what he was doing. He rubbed his eyes, wondering if he were still asleep or awake, and decided he must be awake. Next page. Oh, look. There he is. Oh, let's see if I can. That's the most I can get into view. There we go. And where is father? He cried suddenly. He ran into the next room, and there stood Geppetto, grown years younger overnight, spick and span in his new clothes and happy as a lark in the morning. He was once more Maestro Geppetto, the woodcarver, hard at work on a lovely picture frame, decorating it with flowers and leaves and heads of animals. Father, father, what has happened? Tell me if you can, cried Pinocchio as he ran and jumped on his father's neck. This sudden change in our house is all your doing, my dear Pinocchio, answered Geppetto. When bad boys become good and kind, they have the power of making their homes happy and new with great happiness. I wonder where the old Pinocchio of wood has hidden himself. There he is, answered Geppetto, pointing to a large marionette leaning against a chair, head to one side, arms hanging limp, legs twisted under him. That would be right there. That's the marionette, but that's no longer Pinocchio. After a long look, Pinocchio said to himself with great content, how ridiculous I was as a marionette, and how happy I am now that I've become a real boy. The end. Let's get a closer look. There he is. What do you think? You know, there's so much to say about this last chapter, and it was long. I feel like I almost have to make one more video. So it's the end of the book, but I think maybe I'll make one more video and talk about Pinocchio. So long.